Martin Harris was born in Easton, New York on May 18, 1783, the second of Nathan and Rhoda Harris's 8 children. He married his first cousin, Lucy Harris, in 1808, and they had 6 children. He served in the New York State Militia in the War of 1812. Martin inherited 150 acres in Palmyra, New York, and became a prosperous farmer. He was respected by his neighbors, who considered him to be an honest and industrious man. He believed in the return of Christianity as described in the Bible, and said, "I was inspired of the Lord and taught of the Spirit that I should not join any church." Martin hired Joseph Smith Sr. in 1824 to dig a well, and he told him about the gold plates. Later, Lucy Smith also told Martin about the plates and asked him to visit their son. Lucy Harris insisted she go with him and wanted to finance the translation and publication of the plates, but Martin still needed some time to think it over. During the winter of 1827, several attempts were made to steal the plates from Joseph. He and Emma went to her parents' home in Harmony, Pennsylvania, to work on the translation of the Book of Mormon. Martin gave him $50 in silver to do the Lord's work, and Lucy, who had a vision of the plates in a dream, gave him $28. In February 1828, Martin traveled to Harmony to serve as Joseph's full-time scribe. He may have wanted reassurance that the plates were authentic, or hoped a testimonial would help finance the translation, so Joseph copied some of the characters from the plates for him to take to New York City. Martin met with Charles Anthon, a Columbia College linguistics professor, who gave him a certificate verifying the characters were authentic and the translation was correct. But he tore it up when Martin said the plates came from an angel. Charles asked for the plates so he could translate them, and when Martin said some were sealed, he said, "I cannot read a sealed book." Joseph and Martin felt this was a fulfillment of a prophecy in Isaiah chapter 29, and hoped it would encourage support for the Book of Mormon. Martin returned convinced the plates and characters were authentic, and Joseph Smith was called of God. From April to June 1828, they produced 116 manuscript pages. Martin's wife became bitter and hostile, and he wanted Joseph to ask the Lord through the Urim and Thummim if he could show them to his wife and others to convince them they were authentic. Joseph wanted to please his friend who showed him friendship, when there seemed to be no earthly friend to succor or to sympathize. But the Lord told Joseph no. Martin pleaded that he ask again, and Joseph was told no again. Martin insisted he ask one more time, and this time the Lord gave him permission to show the manuscript to his wife, parents, brother, and sister-in-law. Martin took it to Palmyra and only showed it to who he was commanded to, but he forgot his promise to the Lord and showed it to others, and the manuscript was stolen. Joseph and others suspected a conspiracy from Lucy and others. Martin desperately searched for the manuscript and went to the Smith's home to tell Joseph what happened, crying, "Oh, I have lost my soul." Joseph returned to Harmony and prayed for mercy. The translation stopped and Joseph was rebuked, told to repent, but was told he was still chosen and was called again to do the work with different scribes. Martin stayed in Palmyra, haunted by the loss of the manuscript, and his wife and others who tried to discredit the prophet. He visited Joseph in Harmony in March 1829 and was relieved to learn that he was preparing to resume the translation. When Martin asked if he could see the plates, Joseph received a revelation that witnesses would be called to see and give testimony of them. Martin was promised that if he would bow down before the Lord and humble himself in mighty prayer and faith in the sincerity of his heart, he would be granted a view of the things he desired to see. Martin, Oliver Cowdery, and David Whitmer begged for the privilege of being the promised witnesses. Joseph received a revelation promising they would witness the plates if they would rely upon my word with full purpose of heart. They went into the woods to pray but received no answer. Martin feared his presence was the cause of our not obtaining what we wished, and he left to pray elsewhere. The others prayed again, and the angel appeared and showed them the plates. Joseph found Martin praying, and they were shown the same vision, heard God's voice testify the translation was correct, and they should testify of its truthfulness. The manuscript was prepared for printing, and the witnesses signed a statement that has been included in every edition of the Book of Mormon. The translation was finished in June 1829, And in August, Joseph contracted with Palmyra publisher E.B. Grandin to print 5,000 copies of the Book of Mormon for $3,000. He insisted on payment up front, and Joseph received a revelation from Martin in March 1830. I command you that thou shalt not covet thine own property, but impart freely to the printing of the Book of Mormon. Martin mortgaged his farm to ensure payment of the printing costs, but when the book did not sell as well as hoped, he sold 151 acres to pay off the mortgage in April 1831. This put more strain on his marriage, and he and Lucy separated because of their disagreement of Joseph, the gold plates, and the loss of the farm. Martin was baptized by Oliver Cowdery at the church's organization on April 6, 1830. In May 1831, he led 50 converts from Palmyra to Kirtland, Ohio. His wife refused to follow, and Martin had to keep 2 households. He was ordained a high priest at a church conference in June 1831. He went to Missouri with Joseph and others to buy property and select a site for Zion, where the saints were to gather. He was one of the first to be asked to live the law of consecration and helped supervise and finance church publications. In 1832, he served a mission with his brother Emmer. In January 1834, he was ordained a member of the Kirtland High Council. He volunteered to go to Missouri with Zion's camp in response to the conflicts the saints were having. In February 1834, Sidney Rigdon appeared before the High Council and charged Martin of telling lies about the prophet and the Book of Mormon translation. Martin admitted that he said things calculated to wound his brother's feelings and promised to do better, and the council forgave him. In February 1835, the 3 witnesses selected and ordained a traveling high council of 12 men that eventually became the quorum of the 12 apostles. In March 1836, Martin attended the dedication of the Kirtland Temple. His wife Lucy died that summer, and on November 1st he married Brigham Young's niece, Carolyn Young, and they eventually had 7 children. 1837 was a time of intense conflict within the church. Martin clashed with Sidney Rigdon and refused to join the church-sponsored Kirtland Safety Society Bank. Martin called it a fraud and joined dissenters who tried to reorganize the church. He was released from the High Council and was excommunicated in December along with 27 others. Joseph Smith and Sidney Rigdon moved to Far West Missouri in 1838. Warren Parish's church took control of the Kirtland Temple and named Martin as a trustee. Most saints moved to Missouri, Illinois, and the Utah Territory, but Martin stayed behind in Kirtland, continued to bear his testimony of the truthfulness of the Book of Mormon, and considered himself a guardian of the deserted Kirtland Temple. Martin was rebaptized in November 1842 at Kirtland, but became a member of the Shakers in 1844. He followed James Strang for a time, then accepted the leadership claims of David Whitmer in 1847 and Gladden Bishop in 1851. He joined with William Smith, Joseph's last surviving brother, in 1855, believing he was the prophet's true successor. In 1856, Brigham Young invited Martin and his family to rejoin the church in Utah, but he still had concerns with Brigham Young and the Salt Lake Church, and while his wife and children traveled there, he stayed in Kirtland. He was an earnest and sincere advocate of the spiritual and divine authority of the Book of Mormon, and bore witness of it in England. In 1869, Brigham Young gave 87-year-old Martin a warm invitation to come to Utah, a ticket for his passage, and an official escort from one of the presidents of 70. The saints raised $200 for his move, and he arrived in Salt Lake City by train on August 30, 1870. He was rebaptized to reaffirm his faith on September 17th, and publicly testified of the Book of Mormon. I did see the plates on which the Book of Mormon was written. I did see the angel. I did hear the voice of God, and I do know that Joseph Smith is a true prophet of God, holding the keys of the holy priesthood. At the end of his life, when Martin was asked if he still believed in Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon, he said, "Just as surely as the sun is shining on us and gives us light, the moon and stars give us light by night, and the breath of life sustains us, I know that Joseph Smith was a true prophet of God, chosen of God to open the last dispensation of the fullness of times. So surely do I know that the Book of Mormon was divinely translated." Martin died in Clarkston, Utah on July 10, 1875. after bearing his final testimony of the Book of Mormon. And this is a brief history of Martin Harris. Look for hidden images located in the video. You can support Ponderfun by visiting our Etsy site and Facebook page to find overviews, activity puzzles, and more fun things to do. Please like and share these videos with anyone you think might enjoy them. And please subscribe to this Ponderfun YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, and find some time this week to ponder.